Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another video. So before we even get started with today's video, which by the way is the last video of 2024, I just wanted to talk about the look of this video. I am recording it in cinematic because it is so dreary outside, and I have some barely natural light. Then I have a light that's over our hallway. I didn't want to put the overhead light on. It's hella harsh. It is hella harsh, and I just didn't want to do that to myself or to you guys. So just consider this some special filming for the holiday season, which I'm all decked out with my holiday shirt and my Christmas bulb earrings, a little sparkle in the hair that needs to be a little fluffed out, or, we're going to make it work though. So today is going to be a twofer. Okay. So the first part of the video, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 books that I read in 2024. So the top 5 books for me from 2024. And then the second part of the video, I am going to do a tour of my bookshelf. I have not done one of those. It's been a minute, but there's some little holiday, decor things that are hiding about. And I just wanted to just talk about how I've had to reshelve some stuff. I've moved up higher on the bookshelf because I've acquired so many books, but I'm also giving away a lot of books. So anyway, stay tuned after I talk about these books if you are interested in seeing what my reading room here looks like. Thanks. Okay, so without further ado, my top 5 books for 2024. Number 5, and these are in a particular order. So number 5 is The Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. It combines historical fiction with contemporary fiction, with romance, and even some fantasy elements. And it's done seamlessly, right? It is told in multiple points of view and timelines. And you would think with all of that, you got all these different genres, you got all these different timelines, all of these different points of view, that, okay, this is going to get confusing. How am I going to keep up with, every single thing? But it is done very, very well. It's done very well. I am personally a big fan of multiple points of view. I feel like after 4, you're doing a little bit too much, but at least a minimum of 2, because then you kind of get a better understanding of all the characters and what they were actually feeling, as opposed to maybe the one character who could very well be an unreliable narrator. So I've always been a fan of doing multiple points of view. Okay, so the story follows Clementine, a bookstore owner, and we get an introduction to her that she is pretty much like a loner, and she takes bibliophile to the whole next level, right? She specializes in rare to find books, and she has a friend who has a thrift shop of sorts, and whenever he comes across some gems, of the bookish variety, he gives her a call. Well, she comes across this book that it doesn't have an author, it doesn't have a publication date, doesn't even have a title page, but she could tell it was written by a man, and it's detailing this life he had and this affair that he had with this woman. So she's thinking it's a fiction book, but she just really wants to get more information because it's set back in I want to say the 30s or 40s maybe, from what I can recall. But the crazy thing is, a week or so later, her friend calls her and she gets another book, which turns out to be the companion to the first book that she got. The first book obviously was written by a man, just from the things that he's saying, the way he's talking, and yada yada. Well, the book that comes in the next week is the woman's point of view from that same story. Okay, how crazy is that? So we get all of this back and forth through present day from what happened to them back in the 40s, and it's like these historical references, because there's like stuff that was going on with Hitler, and then the world wars, and just a timeline of what was going on during that time, the Great Depression. And then we come back to present day, and Clementine finds out who the books were about and who the person was that donated them. And then the story takes on even another layer at that point. So I feel like this book is a slow burn. It's a very slow burn. And it is for people who have a deep love for the written word and for reading and storytelling, right? I don't know that this is for someone who is used to, the book talk type books and the quick stories and like all this instant gratification and fast paced. You have to really love a good story, because there's a story within a story, with the books that she finds. So the author takes her time and actually takes us on a journey. And I just loved all aspects of it. And I think if you're someone who loves like romantic historical fiction, blended with, current day. I mean, think finding love letters from, lovers back in the 50s or 60s. And if you're presently reading those letters and thinking about how people lived back then, if you like that kind of stuff, then I think that you would really enjoy The Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. Okay, next up, number 4, How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is another book. There's a theme here. I realized after I was compiling my favorite books, and we'll talk about it at the end. But this is another book that combines historical, contemporary, and fantasy elements to some degree. And it involves... It has a little concept of immortality, because the main character in the book, for every 15 years, he only ages 1 year. So when the story opens, this man looks like maybe he's 40, early 40s or whatever, when in fact, he is over 400 years old, right? And so that in itself, for someone who enjoys books like that, makes you go, tell me more. And I think that, and they say it's a condition that he has, because he's not like a vampire, like, he's not that kind of immortal or whatever. And I think that he could actually be killed. I mean, but living 400 years, that is like as close to immortality pretty much that you're going to get, But I think what the story speaks to the most is what happens to a person, like mentally, emotionally, and even physically to some degree, when you have lived such a long time and experienced so much. Because the author does give us like insight into his past, and when he was in a little village and doing the Salem witch trials, through when there were fires in London, and the plague was taking everybody out. I mean, he's lived through some hard times, and pretty much lost everyone that he loves and cares about. And for you to have to keep existing and carrying all those memories with you, throughout, centuries, it's just crazy, right? I think what makes this book like really worth the ride is the historical pieces of it, combined with present day moral dilemmas, because he has a side quest, right? Let me step back. He has found other people like him, and they've formed a community of sorts to protect each other. But it seems like there may be something more nefarious going on with the leader of this group. And, while the main character is pretty much doing some of his bidding, he also has a side quest. He's looking for something or someone, right? And he has to change identities. I mean, because think about it, like, you can't really stay in a certain place for a long time, because other people will be aging and they're looking at you like, why you still look the same, Again, if you have a love for historical fiction blended with contemporary fiction, and also going back to the title of How to Stop Time, there is like a subtle messaging around how we as humans spend our time and how we waste time and how we wish for more time and, you know, things like that. So if those type of things intrigue you, I think that you would really enjoy How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. Okay, number 3 is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Now, this book I read, it was the first book I read at the beginning of 2024 and the first book that I reviewed on the channel, which, by the way, all of the books that I'm talking about today have their own individual videos, so you can go back and search for them if you want to know more about what I thought or know more about what the book was about. But anyway, this was the first book that I reviewed this year on the channel, and I was so excited because it was such a great way to start the year off, you know, like starting off with a out the gate 4.5-star read book, almost 5-star book. And I kept that momentum going. I read some really good books after that, but here we go again. There is some fantasy elements here combined with contemporary fiction and romance. It's not so much historical. It was only 7 years, hence the title, that somebody went back in time. So let me come back forward in time and explain. So there's this woman who inherits this apartment after her aunt, I believe it was her aunt, after her aunt or her great aunt dies, she inherits this apartment. And there's a portal of sorts in this apartment that allows her to slip back in time like 7 years. Okay, like I said, hence the title, The 7-Year Slip. Well, she ends up meeting a man in the past, you know, in the seven years back, who could ultimately become her future, if you know what I mean. Because like I said, it's a romance story. What I really enjoyed about this story was, I mean, obviously the premise was really clever, but how the author ended up blending those two timelines, because they come together present day, but like they're obviously two different people from what they remember, you know, how they remember meeting. Now her memories are pretty much intact, right? Like she knows that there's this portal. She knows that this is weird. I'm going back in time, but hey, I'm back here now. I'm working in the office. I think it was him that was kind of confused. Like, have we met? Like, where, you know, that type of thing, and how the author keeps the same chemistry and the same attraction and the same interest from 7 years ago, you know, starting this relationship, to how she carried it over to the future. I feel like it was a really good spin on time travel, if you will, you know, because the only place too that the main character could experience this was in that apartment. Like if she like came back to present day, and the portal wasn't very reliable either. It wasn't like every day she could just go back 7 years. Like, so when if she left the house, for example, if she's with this guy and it's 7 years back, because they stayed in her apartment primarily, if she's like, oh, I got to go to the store, I got to go to work, and she leaves out of that apartment, she's thrust back into her life present day. And then if she goes back into the apartment, the portal may or may not be open. So sometimes it was a while before she would see him again, you know, that type of thing. And then he's just kind of like, where have you been? And you know, that. So it was very, very good, very well written, you know, kept my interest, and just, it was one of those books that, you know, you kind of hate to see come to an end. But anyway, anything that I mentioned about that particular story is something you find interesting, then you should definitely check out The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Okay, 2 more to go. Number 2, First Lie Wins by another Ashley. This time it's Ashley Elston. And this book, oh my goodness, it is a thriller. You know, and I know I talked about this on another video, like kind of making the delineation between suspense, mystery, thriller. And I feel like with thrillers, there's always some chase involved. There's always high stakes. There's, you know, things are moving at a rapid pace. And I feel like very much in First Lie Wins, you know, it was more thriller than anything else. I mean, it's mostly contemporary fiction, thriller, but there are some suspense elements for certain, because like you're like, what's gonna happen? Is she gonna get away? Is this gonna happen? Are they gonna find out? Are they gonna get the guy? So, you know, it intertwines that as well. But essentially what First Lie Wins is about, it's about a grifter named Evie. And this story is also told in multiple timelines, no historical type fiction. I mean, if you count, like, we go back to when she was a child or whatever, but nothing with historical type references or anything like that. But it's only one point of view. It's a single point of view, but it's past and present, you know, type telling of the story. And Evie starts off as a grifter, but then she goes to work for a man by the name of Mr. Smith. I mean, she's still putting her grifting, you know, stuff to use, but she's doing it for him and getting paid a whole lot more. And for those of you who aren't really familiar, in a broad sense, grifting is basically like people who set out to deceive and trick. They're not necessarily spies, because like it's not like at the government level or whatever, but they don different, you know, looks and disguises and identities so that they can usually steal from people, you know, get something from a person, right? And that's what Evie has done. But she, like I said, she's working for a guy now, so it's on a larger scale. He has like a network where he's doing favors for people, you know, that involve all types of things, mostly entrapment, blackmail, you know, that type of stuff, bribery. But Evie, at the beginning of the story, like, there's a guy who was a mark, but she has fallen for him. And so now you have her reality blurring the lines, because she's like, for the first time ever, kind of like, well, what does this guy do? Like, why does he have to be taken down? You know what I'm saying? So the more that she starts to kind of question things, you know, she starts to see the repercussions of that, especially as her past catches up with her. And then she's on a race to not only trying to figure out, you know, what's going on with this guy that she's fallen in love with. Why is her past coming back, and who's doing all this? Who's sabotaging her and setting her up? And, you know, it just takes the reader on a ride from there, you know. And I really enjoy getting those glimpses into her past assignments, if you will, things that she had to do for Mr. Smith and aliases that she had. The biggest surprise for me in this book was that there was a happily ever after. Like these type of books, I don't know, outside of like finding out who done it, you know, or maybe somebody getting revenge, if you want to call either of those instances a happily ever after. But from, you know, like a romantic standpoint, that whole thing was resolved, you know, wasn't left hanging or whatever. Anyway, if you like, you know, books that are fast paced, that are thrillers, that keep you guessing, you know, if you like stuff where it is like kind of like a element of like spy type, you know, different aliases and different things that the main characters and other characters take on. And then you have a romance piece too. I think you will really enjoy First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. My favorite book for the entire year of 2024. Okay, wait, let me stop. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has taken the opportunity to subscribe to my channel, who has engaged with me throughout the year, who has, you know, liked my videos, who has left comments. Thank you guys so much. I have a very aggressive goal for next year, so let's run those numbers up. Go ahead, if you have not subscribed, and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel right now. Go ahead and do that and turn on the post notification bells. Like I said at the top of this video, this will be my last video for 2024. You know, going to take the next couple of weeks off, but I will be back the second week in January. So mark your calendars for that. And then also, before we get to number one, because I know y'all are waiting with bated breath, I have read to date, according to the reading app that I use, I feel like there are some books that I may not have put in there, but we're like at 65 books. This has been the most books that I've ever read in a single year. And, you know, I think it's due in large part to so many of the books that I read, I was so engaged that I finished them in a day. So there were times when I was reading like 2 and 3 books a week, some months, you know, especially over the summer when I didn't have as much going on. And I've read some really good books, but this was one of the easier years, I feel like, to narrow down like those top 5. It's not saying that I didn't really enjoy a lot of the books that I read, but these were just standouts. So, anywho, without further ado, the best book, in my opinion, that I read this year was A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. Yes, yes, yes. Let me tell you something. Tia Williams never disappoints. At least she's never disappointed me. I don't know about y'all, but I've never been disappointed by any book that I've read by that woman. And based on the other 4 books that I just mentioned, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that I must have, you know, been in some type of space this year, because all of my top reads involved romance, like some historical elements, and fantasy elements, like blended together. And that is exactly what was going on in A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. On its face, it is definitely a romance book. Ugh, one of the juiciest romance books. But also, there's this fantasy element and this historical element, because with the 2 characters, I'm getting all excited all over again about this book. There's a young woman named Ricky Wilde who, you know, she sets off away from her very famous, very judgmental family to kind of, you know, forge her own path and make her own way. So she moves to Harlem, New York, and opens a flower shop. Well, there, you know, she crossed paths with a man by the name of Ezra. And there's just like this weird magnetic pull between the 2 of them, that they are both like, what is this? What is happening? Why? I don't even know you. I don't even know you. And, you know, he's very hesitant to even like get involved with anybody, but they just cannot stop this attraction. Well, this story is told in past and present, and it's told in 2 points of view. And through Ezra's point of view, we learn that Ezra was born in the 1930s. Okay, so how is he in 2024 with Ricky Wilde? How is that possible? And that is like, you know, a really like juicy piece of the story, as well as like their chemistry, which is just all the fire emojis, right? And you know, the story also contains like some elements. I mean, it's mostly like talk of like spells and voodoo and things like that. So keep that in mind, depending on how you feel about it or not. And again, there's like that piece of like immortality, you know, because like I said, Ezra was born in 1936, but he looks like he's the same age as Ricky in 2024. So there's that. But I felt like this book, like her stories, even like with those elements and different things, you would think that it wouldn't be as relatable as it is. You know, it's very relatable. Her writing is just very transcendent. It is an escape. This story is like a true escape. It's one of those books that you curl up in a chair with, you know, with a blanket, and there's rain outside and you just don't move for hours because you're so sucked in to what's happening in this book. It's one of those books that bring a smile to your face. There's like, you know, some teary-eyed moments, but it's just joyous in the end. I feel like it was just such a love story on so many different levels, not only obviously between Ricky and Ezra, but, you know, she pays so much homage to Harlem and the Harlem Renaissance. I feel like it's a love letter to the city and to that time when Black excellence was like at its peak, right? But then I also think it's a love letter to the past in the ways that, you know, we are thankful for the generations that came before us and the sacrifices they made for us to get to where we are, you know, type thing. So yeah, it was just so richly layered, and I could go on, but I will stop there because that in itself should be enough to convince y'all to run, not walk, and pick that up. You know, it may be too late for you to get it done, you know, before the end of the year, depending on what your plans are for the holidays, but definitely it could be your top read for 2025. So anyway, that is it. My top 5 books for 2024. I have, I have some plans, and I will talk about them more in my first video in January, of like, you know, not only my TBR and the plans that I have to could be a little bit more concise, kind of how I was in this video with my future reviews. I've already read some books that I will probably carry over into 2025 because I was so caught up on like all my filming and all my posts and all my reviews. I mean, this was a really good year as far as I feel like for me having content, just so much content in the pipeline. So I'm looking forward to a year of incredible reads in 2025. Definitely will need the escapism. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But again, I just thank you guys so much for watching my videos, for interacting. Don't forget about my hashtag over on Instagram. If you're not someone who really is always on, you know, YouTube or whatever. I have like all kinds of recommendations and books that are not featured on the YouTube channel. So hashtag Tracy Momi Reads over there on Instagram. And I'm just looking forward to more, you know, great books, more recommendations, and sharing my thoughts, my reviews, my rants, and my raves with you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. And take care of yourself, take care of your peace, take care of your mental health, take care of your bodies. And I will see you guys next year. Don't forget, I'm about to do a tour of my shelves, so stick around for that. Bye. Okay, here's what I'm hoping is going to be a quick tour of my reading room. First thing you'll notice is that there's no rug on the floor. We have a dog, and I had to take the rug up because it's full of pet hair and stuff, so we got to get that clean. But anyway, without further ado, what I'm going to do first is kind of pan back. So yeah, this is a reading room at the front of our house, and this is where I film all of my YouTube videos. It's right near our stairs, so I'm just going to show you some of the decorative elements and things that are in here and give you some information on where I got them. The first 2 things are the chairs. Those chairs came from Wayfair, and again, it's dreary outside. I have one overhead light on, but those chairs are a little bit lighter than they appear in person. I mean, they're a navy blue, but here they look really, really dark, and they're not that dark. They're really a really nice blue color. But anyway, that little puff that's in the middle, can't remember where I got that from, but it's seen better days. I want to get a higher ottoman that can also serve as maybe like a center table or console. Panning over here, I got that little table from Walmart, and it's just like a little console table. The lamp came from Home Goods. One of my favorite places to get candles is Bath and Body Works. I don't care what you say. Argue with your dog. They last the longest and have the best scents to me. This is where we keep Alexa. I'm not going to say her name because she will come on and try to get all up in my business. This particular print, I know it's kind of hard to see with the light shining off of it, but that actually came out of an Oprah magazine. And I just thought it was so beautiful, so I tore the page out and put it in a frame. The curtains here, I know I'm trying to tilt this, but the curtains came from Amazon, and I thought they were perfect because they match the blue in the design there matches the chairs so perfectly. And they're sheers. I don't ever close them. We have blinds up there, as you can see, so they're really just to frame the window. This is my little Charlie Brown Christmas tree, but it's a little bit fuller than Charlie Brown. And also have like a little theme running with the ornaments by color. Let's see here. Okay, that is definitely not supposed to be here. Yeah, just some little elements that I'll highlight. First of all, like me and my children, even though they are practically adults, we do art days sometimes over the summer, and this is like a collection of owls that I painted. Another like piece of art that I got out of a book, tore a page out of a book and framed it. That came from Five Below, I believe, that little plant. This is where I keep all of my bookmarks. So it's just a little thing. I mean, it's so many bookmarks in there. Little ornament that says read. You know, some more Christmas embellishments. And I've had that little piano forever. It used to be upstairs on our shelves up there. I don't know where I got that from. I'm sorry. I think that came from maybe TJ Maxx or something, or at home. I can't remember. I do remember, however, these postcards. I got these at a bookstore like eons ago, with all of these famous black celebrities, and they were like on sale. I want to say like 50 cents or 25 cents or something, because I bought all of the ones, all of the black, I bought all of them, so they couldn't have been too much. I think that came from Target. All the plants on the shelf are fake. That one came from Walmart because I would kill some plants if I had to leave them in here. Funny story about that little pillow that looks like a, you know, the cards that you check out from libraries for, you know, those of us who remember those days. There used to be a card in the back and, you know, you'd have your name, the date that the book was due. Well, I thought that pillow was going to be a lot larger. And it turns out it wasn't, and it's actually just a cover. I had to buy a pillow off of Amazon, but the cover came off of, it was an impulse buy on Instagram, I believe. Another magazine picture. That's why all of my artwork, except for this one. Now, this one I actually paid for this print on Etsy. But if you're looking through magazines and you see something really nice, you'd be surprised how well it would look in a frame. I have 3 prints like that, and they all look amazing. A little elf on the shelf. I mean, that's not like the real, you know, elf on the shelf, but I saw him at the dollar store, so he became my elf on the shelf. And, you know, I'm a proud Taurus the bull, so I just love this bull. I got this from Home Goods, and I got this in a clearance bin at Target because it's my business. It's actually a candle from Tabitha Brown's collection. A little Cocoa Cafe little house. I think it has a light inside that has gone out. And then I have my Just Read pillow there. I'm going to pan back just so you can see. I know y'all, I hate that this light is so bad. So that's kind of like a full image of my shelf. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. I'm knocking stuff down. And I mentioned this in the video, but I actually, when I first got the shelf, there was nothing at the top. But as I've gotten more books, I have had to like move the book. And that's my dirty rug over there. I've had to move the books up. So I still have a lot of room because there's just a lot of tchotchkes and stuff in different places. So, you know, I could anytime remove that stuff and make even more room for books. The bookshelves themselves are the Billy bookcases from IKEA. And fun fact, I had ordered, like you see how it's like over there, the skinny one, a larger one, a skinny one. I had ordered 3 of the skinny ones. So it was supposed to be flush to the wall on both sides, or to the banister on both sides. But that 3rd skinny one, it kept getting like back ordered. And I was like, you know, I'm ready to put my shelves up. So I just said, forget it. We're going to go with what we have. But they're anchored at the top, but they can easily be unscrewed. So at some point I may do that. Just go ahead and order that slender one again and just wait for it to come in. And then that way I can push it down and have that entire wall full. The last thing I will make note of, oh, that's my little Target vase. Here, this is some trim that my husband picked up from, I need to also, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. At some point I do want to fill in these holes, but this is trim that my husband got from Home Depot, and it was already painted. It was already white. And what he did is he, you know, nailed it in and went over, like, I think you can see maybe one of the nails. Oh, maybe not. He did such a great job. But without this piece, oh, there's one. Without this piece on here, these pieces, and even here on the end, he put one here on the end, you could tell there's like a gap because these are all separate bookshelves. I mean, that is like 4 different bookshelves. So he did that to make it look like it was one cohesive piece, because without it, I mean, it was very apparent that they were 4 different units. But yeah, I am loving my bookshelf. Every now and then I rearrange it. I try to dust it at least once a week, at least the shelf part, and go over the spines of the books. It's one of my favorite rooms in the house, if not my favorite. And I spend time over here reading and listening to music and, you know, peeking out the window, trying to see what the neighbors are up to. So thanks for coming along on this tour of my bookshelf. And again, I'll see you guys next month. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.